So in previous session, guys, we discussed about what is Azure Data Factory and what are all the components are associated with Azure Data Factory. And we also discussed about why we need to use an Azure Data Factory, what is an architecture of an Azure Data Factory, using an Azure Data Factory, how the data movement can works. We discussed in a previous session. What is an ETL service, right? When we should use an Azure Data Factory, all these concepts we discussed in a previous session, right? So today's session, I just want to explain about portal, guys, and this is a portal, okay, and where you need to work in a day-to-day scenarios. So in real time, you need to open this portal, and you can, if you want, you can start creating the services. But real time, what will happen? Somebody is also created on behalf of you guys because they have the complete access, and they'll communicate with the customers, and they'll create this all the services, right? And they'll provide an access at subscription level, and they'll provide an access for you to create a pipelines and move data from respective source to target. Remember this point is always okay. So if you want to move data from source to target, you need to create a pipeline. Okay, to create a pipeline or any components, right, in Azure Data Factory. For example, if I can create this data factory service, right, and after that, if you want to create any pipeline, if you want to create any pipeline, you should have contributor access. At least you should have the contributor access. If you do not have contributor access, you cannot do anything in Azure Data Factory. You cannot move data, you cannot create a linked service, you cannot create a data set, you cannot create a pipeline, you cannot create any trigger, you cannot create integration runtime. Whatever the components are associated with Azure Data Factory, you cannot create. Okay, remember, once you join in organizations, once they have provided you the subscription access, right, what you need to check, what level of access they provided you, whether they provided you the reader access, whether they provided you the contributor access, right? So we'll discuss all these roles. Okay, so only owner can provide you this permissions. Okay, our administrator can provide you this permissions so that you can access it. Okay, you can access all the components, and you can start creating, modifying, deleting, right? So they can provide you an access. Sometimes what will happen, guys, in a real time, they may, if you're working in a support environment, right, if you're working in a support environment, they can provide you an access to execute a pipeline, and they never ever provide you an access modifying the pipeline or deleting the pipeline, right? So what level of access they can provide you, that also we can discuss going forward anyhow. Okay, because you should understand, because these are all the things more in depth about each and everything for Azure Data Factory. We'll discuss that so that you'll get more knowledge on that. Okay, we'll discuss that going forward. What level of and where you need to check these permissions from Microsoft document. We'll also discuss that. Okay. So today's session, I just want to walk through this portal, okay? Because this is where you need to work in a day-to-day work, right? So this is a portal, and you can see left side there is a three lines, right? So these are all the services, okay? So Microsoft, they categorized almost 22 plus categories and 200 plus services. Okay, so under each category, that I mean, we have set of services. I'll show you how Microsoft categorized. Okay, so when I go to all the services, right, this is a home page, and this is an option where you need to create a service, guys. Okay, this is an option where you need to create a resource, and we also have a home page. So this is an home page, and just click on a home page, and this is a home page. Okay, and we also need to change the dashboard. For example, if I can click on this dashboard, I can see this view, right? If you want to create a dashboard, you can also create, but generally we cannot create any dashboard, and this is a default dashboard where we need to use even in a real time also. Okay, so if you want to see the full screen, right, you can also do that. So refresh, upload, right? So edit, if you want to change anything, you can also change it. If you want to delete the dashboard, you can also do that. Okay, So generally we cannot do all these things. The default dashboard only we can use. And all services, okay, all services, what I meant to say that. And here we have almost 22 plus categories, see here. So these many categories we have. And so for each category, under general category, we have some set of services like management group, subscriptions, right, resource groups, cost management, and marketplace. So management groups, guys, where they can, I mean, at a very high level, so we discuss it, right? Management group in the sense, for example, they are top of your subscription. They basically handle, because if you're working under, for example, I am working in Microsoft, and or else I'm working on one of the clients, Chevron, for example, right? So I'm working for, maybe previously I was worked on one of the, when I was worked on one of an organization, I work for Chevron. Chevron have different kinds of business functions. They used to handle it. It's an oil and gas company. They have finance, is one business function, one department. They have supply and trading is another department, logistic is another department. They have sales and product management is the another department. They have HR is another department. They have different business functions, okay. So for each business functions, they have a different subscriptions. On top of all these subscriptions, they have some management group, right? Management group, right, where they can handle that all the subscriptions. And if they want to set any policies, right, for example, they want to create an integration runtime, SSIS integration runtime. We'll also use some public IP addresses. We'll also use some public IP addresses, but organization at management level, they'll create some policies. They'll create some policies. For example, if you're working on Wipro or any Deloitte, right, they can set their own policies, guys, okay. At a subscription level, management team, management group, they can set their own policies to restrict that public IPs. Instead, they can allow only the private IP address to securely connecting to their resources. Okay, so those policies and everything, you don't worry, guys. They can set very high level. But when you have any issues faced right from your end, you have to check all this deep level. And you sometimes you also need to talk with a very higher level people, right? What policy is set. If you want to know more about this information, you can also create a case to Microsoft, and we'll further analyze what was happening and what is the issue, what is this public IPs got deleted, why this service was down. Everything we will give that information, so that you can coordinate with your customers, or you can coordinate with your management group, right? So this is what will happen in real time, guys. They'll set some policies at very high levels to restrict something, okay, to restrict something. So this is more deep level of understanding of each and every service, guys, because they have that complete privileges where they can set these policies. And the permissions, right? Once you start accessing the subscriptions, right, if you want to do anything, they need to provide some permissions. We have administrators, and we also have generally owners who can provide you the access to create a pipelines, to create a components are associated with each and every pipeline, right? So they will share you all this information, okay. But if you want to check those information, so how you need to check, right? So generally, if you want to see any resource, you can check here. This is a global search. So I can see here there is a text box, right? So this is a global search where you can search anything. For example, if I want to search for subscriptions, right, so I can see the subscriptions. I can click on the subscriptions, right? So under the subscriptions, we have a resource groups. Under the resource groups, we have resources. What is the resource? Azure Data Factory is a resource, okay. So under the subscription, generally, so what I have mentioned, but at a very high level, we have a management groups, okay, management group. And under that, we have some subscriptions, okay. Under that, we have further categorized into resource groups, okay, resource groups. And we also have a resources, okay. So this is how they categorized, guys, okay. This is how they categorized. We have management group, and under the management group, we have a subscriptions. Under the subscriptions, they can we further categorized into resource group. Whenever we tried creating this a resource, and we'll specify all the subscription and resource group names, okay, subscriptions and resource group names. And we will see that once we start creating the service in portal, and how you need to specify the subscription and resource group. Okay, how you need to organize your resources. Okay, so as I mentioned guys, for each business function, for example, one of a department business function is one department, like I have a finance as supply and trading. Under supply and trading, I'll keep all set of resources under this department. Okay, so for that I'll create a subscription for that, and I'll also create a resource group to further categorized. Okay, for example, I have a dev, I have a test environment, I have a production environment. I'll further categorize it into different resource groups and different, even for real time what will happen guys, we have a dev, we have a separate subscription. I mean lower environment we have a separate subscription, and even for production we have a separate subscription. Always we'll further categorize that, and we'll keep all our set of resources related to supply and trading or finance. We'll keep in the same subscriptions. Okay, so we have a production separate subscription, and dev we have a separate subscription. Even sometimes test also separate subscription. We'll keep all set of resources related to test environment. We'll keep all test set of resources related to the dev environment. We'll keep in a separate subscriptions. Okay, so that these are all the things for organizing. Okay, organizing in a better, right? So even if you want to purchase anything, if you want to go to supermarket, they'll categorize all these items, right? If you can go to DMart, right? So they, for each floor they have they categorized. For example, in a first floor or ground floor they have all the groceries, first floor they have all clothes, in the second floor they have all kitchen items, right? They categorized in that way, right? So even if you want to see all this set of services, right? So even if you want to work something, right? So the things are organized so that you can easily understand, right? You can easily understand, if even if somebody working on your project, right? If you're organizing the things, if you're organizing all this set of services, right? So we can easily accessible, we can easily understand the things, right? So that is the reason, and they split that each and every module into different kinds of subscriptions. And so we have for example, what will happen guys, we will split each and every module, and we used to work on the sprint, right? So generally we have some sprint every 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and we used to complete all our tasks related to, for example, I'm working under supply and trading. I used to create a project for that. I used to create a different kinds of resources, and we used to create the pipelines. We used to do transformation logic related to the supply and trading. Okay, and once we have done everything, then we used to create a DevOps pipelines, and we used to integrate our code. We used to test everything in our lower environment. If everything looks good, we'll be able to merge our changes finally into production, right? Everything is related to one module, that is supply and trading, right? So like this we'll have different kinds of projects, right? So for other module like sales, we sales and product management, we have another module. For another department is finance, we have another module. HR, we have another module. Like we have different kinds of modules. Okay, so that is how we split. Okay, we'll split each and every business function, and we'll create a separate subscriptions, and we used to create the resources are related to each and every department. So if you are working on a supply and trading, once you join organization, they provided an access to one of the subscription, that is supply and trading. Okay, so they already created, they already organized everything, and you need to create your pipelines. For example, they provided you the requirement saying that, yeah, there is a SFTP server. Okay, on premises SFTP server, they have set of zip files, and where you need to extract all the zip files. Okay, so you don't want to load as it is into the target. They want you to extract those zip files using an options are available in Azure Data Factory, and they want you to load into a cloud storage, one of the cloud storage. Okay, simple requirement. Connecting to SFTP server, extract the file from SFTP root folder, and load the data into cloud. Okay, using Azure Data Factory service. It's an ETL service. Okay, just want to connect to the source system, get the files, and load into the cloud. That is what your requirement. Okay, so what is the step by step process you need to follow? but we already discussed. The components are associated with Azure Data Factory is linked service, establish a connection to source. At the same time, you need to create a link service to connect to the target mission where you want to ingest these files, like a cloud storage. And you also need to create a data set where you need to read the file from your respective source, and you also need to create a data set for writing the files into data lake gen 2. I mean to say that cloud storage. And then you can use copy active. You can create a pipeline. Is what is pipeline is a logical grouping of activities. So what is the activity you are using here? Copy activity. Okay, so we already discussed about activity is nothing but an action or processing step. What is your action here? You're trying to move data from source to target. That's it, simple. Okay, so you need to create an activity like copy activity where you need to use to move data from source to target. Okay, you need to specify what is source, what is sink. Okay, sink or target, in ADF terminology we call it as a sink. Okay, we used to specify both the data sets in copy activity, and then we can move data to the target. Simple. Okay? We'll see practically how you need to create, how you need to establish this, how you need to orchestrate. Okay, so we'll discuss going forward. Okay, so at a very high level I'm trying to explain. So once you start creating this portal, guys, you can see this is a global search, and you can see all set of services. Okay, so you want to see all the data factories, you want to see storage account. When I click on the data factories, I can see all the list of data factories. Okay, so all the list of data factories here. Okay, so even real time, guys, what will happen if you want to see all the data factories? You can just click on this option, data factories. If you're not find here data factories, okay, so I can see here data factories option. So what are all the data factories are available? We have multiple data factories under one subscription. We have under a resource group, we have multiple data factories you can also create, guys. Okay, remember this point. Okay, and so I can search everything here. What if you know the data factory name, right? So you can also search with the data factory name. I want to search with test data factory, right? Test data, I can see here test data factory demo 009, test data factory 04, test data factory demo 12, right? So I can see all list of data factories here. Okay, if you do not know the name, just type here data factories, guys, so that you can go to the data factories section and you can see all the data factories are associated with you, right? So under the subscription, under this data factories, you can see these are all the list of data factories are associated with you. Okay, so I can see here different subscriptions anyhow, but I have an access for all the subscriptions. You can see whatever the access you have, right? So the list of data factories, you can see all the list of data factories here, guys. Remember this point always. Okay, so this is a global search where you need to search for anything, not only data factories, even SQL databases, key vault service. Okay, so Azure key vault service is nothing but, guys, it's a centralized place where you need to keep all your secure information, right? So your password, your username, your connection string, everything you can place. We'll have a separate session for this key vault service, guys, because this is very, very important, most frequently used service in every pipeline. Because while you are trying to connect to the source or target, right, so you need to specify some credentials, right? You need to specify some connection string, you need to specify some account key, you need to specify some username and password, you need to specify, if you want to connect SFTP, you need some credentials like SFTP host name, username, password, port number, everything, right? Everything is secure, right? So all this information we used to keep, even if you want to keep SSL certificates, right? So our if you want to try to connect to Databricks app, you used to place that Databricks access token and client ID, directory ID, service principal to connect securely to your data lakes to the Gen 2, right? Even if you want to connect to the on-premises SQL server from Databricks, you used to keep all our credentials in Key Vault. Okay, so there are plenty of things, guys, where you need to understand in the Key Vault service that we can discuss. Okay, going forward. So these are all the set of services. Okay, cloud services. If you want to search anything, this is a global search where you need to search those services. Okay, So this is an option guys where you can find, if this is a UI, this is a UI based, right? So if you want to create each and every service through bash shell or powershell, okay, so if you are aware bash or powershell, you can change shells anytime, if you want to guys. And this is an option where you can create all the services. For example, if I want to create a data factory service, or if I want to create a storage account, or if you want to create a SQL database service, right? You can also use command based. Okay, if you don't want to go for UI based, if you want to go for command based, or if you want to automate anything, you can use this bash and powershell scripting. Okay, bash and powershell scripting also you can do it, but most frequently use this UI based approach only. If you want to do that, we have a separate document. I'll explain that as well guys, how you can create, if you want to create a subscription, if you want to create a resource group, if you want to create a resource using this bash and powershell also, you can do it. Okay, but how you can do that, we'll discuss that. Okay, so this is an option guys, second option. Okay, after cloud shell, this is a cloud shell option. This is an directories plus subscription. So I can see these are all the subscriptions are associated with me. Okay, so real time they can also provide you a different subscriptions access for you where you need to work. Okay, so they, what level of access they can also provide you guys based on your roles and responsibilities. Maybe if you are working as Azure data engineer, as a developer, so you can, they can provide you the definitely contributor access. If you are working as a support kind of environment, they may provide you the access, that they may not be provide you the access, complete access guys, because contributor access, if somebody also can modify those pipelines, right? So whether they can provide maybe any maintenance kind of projects, right? So they can even provide you an access for contributor, because until unless if they are not providing contributor access, you cannot make any changes with respect to the pipelines configurations. Okay, remember this point guys. Okay, so subscriptions and everything, what level of subscriptions are associated with you, and you need to check basically here guys. Okay, and you can also go to subscriptions, what are all the subscriptions are associated with you. You can also check, go to subscriptions in a global search, and you can also check all the subscriptions are associated with you. Okay, and this is an option guys, appearance. If you do not agree with this appearance, okay, and you can also go to dark. If you want to make it as a dark, I can also make it, see here, just for view. Okay, so or else I want to make it as same flyout. I want to make it this flyout. Okay, so go back to the previous. Okay, that's it. So and language plus region guys. Okay, and people are working from different countries, right? So what Microsoft did here, so they have the different languages. Okay, so they can use their native language guys. Okay, so not only English, they can use their native language, and they can start creating the service in portal. Okay, that's flexibility we have guys. Indonesia and Dutch, we have some Francis, right? So we have Italiano, so different Netherlands, right? We have different countries, okay? So where they can use their native language. So for India, we can use an English, but for other countries, they can use their native language for creating, because so few countries, guys, they don't even know that English fluently, because that's the reason they can use their native language for creating the services. Okay, that is the reason Microsoft is added for different countries languages, because instead of talking in English guys, I mean, they always think that they want to speak in even Chinese also, people can talk in their native language. Okay, and they always preferable for that. Okay, remember this point if you are working on multiple clients in real time. My information, so my email ID, my organization email ID and everything, sign out. So you never sign out basically. So once you joined in I mean organizations guys, you can see all these kinds of information, and these are all, you can see here notifications. Since you are working on a free trial, right? So Microsoft is offering you 13,300 credits or 200 USD dollars, right? So you can utilize that 1 month, and you can see how much utilization. Okay, how much Microsoft is charging when you start I mean running the pipelines. Okay, remember always guys, remember always, when you try to create a service from the portal, Microsoft, they never charge you. And when you start running the pipelines from the data factory, you can start creating the pipelines, and when you start running the pipelines and the duration of the pipeline, okay, and the number of activities you have utilized in that pipeline, they can charge you only for that. Okay, we'll experience that, I'll show you. Okay, so this is an option, guys, where you need to create a ticket to Microsoft. Even if you are in a free trial, still you can create a ticket to Microsoft, guys. They can still respond. If you are working on a free trial, if you face any queries, and they will talk to you, okay, they will drop you an email, and they'll drag you if you need any help, okay, over the teams, whatever, and they'll resolve your issues. But it's not there are some, maybe one or two issues is fine, but they cannot, if you are creating maybe in a technical related, more technical experience, right? So maybe if you want to implement something, you need help from Microsoft, they cannot assist you on this. But there, if there is any bug, or if there is any thing you need assistance from them, they can definitely share you over the call, or the email also, guys. Okay, and one more thing, if you want to provide, if you need any implementation, okay, if you need any new implementation, you need to talk to their cloud solution architects, okay, who can provide this information for you, okay, generally. Okay, so you have an option here, how you need to create a ticket. Okay, so we have an option here, helpless support. Click on helpless support, and here we have an option, create a support request. Okay, create a support request. Just click on this create support request, guys. In real time you have to follow the same approach. Okay, so once you join an organization, maybe your customer already associated with Microsoft, and they are using the Microsoft products, right? So I can see here what kind of issue you have. The issue is related to billing, right? Issue is related to the subscription limits, issue is related to subscription management, or any technical issue. Okay, or any technical issue. If there is any technical issue while maybe while implementing any pipelines or anything else, right? So you can also select your subscription. I want to select my subscription here. So what level up, because you need to specify all these things, guys. Okay, you need to specify all these things, what is your subscription, and everything you have to specify here. For example, I want to specify this. See here, my services cannot find subscription service type. What is that service type, right? So you have an issue with an Azure Data Factory, you have an issue with virtual machine, you have an issue with see here, SQL database, right? If you want to click on Data Factory, what kind of an issue it is, so what is the Data Factory name, everything you have to specify, guys. Okay, everything you have to specify, and click on next, and submit it. Okay, so what is your issue, and you can also paste your error message. For example, if you are trying to create a pipeline and running the pipeline through Azure Data Factory, suddenly you have some issues, right? Suddenly you have some issue, you want to create a ticket to Microsoft, because this is a production issue or a development, whatever it is. So you can create a ticket to Microsoft, and they can resolve what is this issue. If you're not able to identify, they'll resolve this issue. Okay, you can start creating this ticket support request to Microsoft, and they can start working on your query. Okay, remember this point, guys. These are all the things you need to understand, more details. Okay, this is an option, guys, where you need to create okay, where you need to provide some feedback. Okay, so if you want to agree with their services, and your experience is good with this portal, right, you can also send the feedback. Microsoft still respond positively. Okay, so you can also send the valuable feedback to them. Okay, so this is an option for that. Okay, so right side you can see this is an organization email ID. So, and if you're working on a free trial, right, so you can see the default directory instead of organization name. So you can see that free trial subscription once you start creating that. Okay, so okay, go to home again, left side. So I can see all the set of services here. Maybe once you once you have created, you cannot able to see all this recent services, because I have created all this for previous batches. That is the reason you can see, you can view here all the resources. Okay, but for you, you cannot see any recent resources. Okay, so it should be an empty. But once you start creating the data factory, once you start creating the storage accounts, or SQL databases, or keywords, or virtual machine, or data bricks, so you can see all this services, guys. Okay, So now today's session, guys, I'm going to explain about how you need to create a data factory. Okay, we'll see that you need to understand more details on this data factory in real time, guys. If you want to do any POC, right? If you want to do any POC, you can use this data factories option. Okay, just click on create, click on create. So I can see here, if you want to create a data factory, right? So you need to like login form, guys. Okay, if you want to maybe go to the Amazon or any Flipkart, right? So or any red bus, right? So many people are heard this Abibus or anything, any of their applications. If you want to go inside, you have to sign up, right? First you have to sign up. Even if I want to go to this data factory service, I have to sign up. I have to specify some details, right? So I have to specify some details if I want to access this particular service from the portal. Okay, what is the service? This is an ETL service. Okay, so I mean, what is the use of this service? Where I can extract the data from variety of the source systems and I can move to the cloud. Okay, using Azure Data Factory service, I can connect to the source system. I can extract the data from the source system, whatever it is, and I can move it to the cloud storage. Okay, so this is what my intention. That is the reason I'm trying to create this data factory service. Okay, and so I can see here, select the subscription to manage deployed resources and cost. Okay, so Microsoft, guys, they'll always charge from the subscription level. They'll not charge for individual resource. Instead, they will charge from subscription for that module, for that department, or for that business function. They'll charge at a very high level, subscription level. What is your usage, and what are all the services you have created under the subscription? Only the only the set of subscriptions you have in that subscription, and what is the usage, based on that they'll charge. Okay, you have to specify. Okay, you have to specify. Your first step, always need to specify the subscription here. This is my subscription. So for you it is a free trial. For you it is a free trial. So I have a resource group. Resource group is nothing but it's a kind of a logical container where you need to further organized. Okay, so under the subscription, under the we'll keep all the resources under the resource group. Resource group is nothing but it's when you want to create a new resource group, you can also create a. So I can see here, resource group is a container that holds related resources for an Azure solution. Okay, so you can see here, I'm trying to create this service under the one of the resource groups. Since already created the resource group for you need to create this resource group, guys. Okay, because you need to specify the resource group while creating the resource Azure Data Factory resource. So I can see here, I need to specify the resource group name. Since already have the resource group is placed here, so I can use that resource group. Okay, so I have multiple resource groups here, so I want to use the same resource group. So I want to use test a resource group 002. Okay, I want to use the same resource group, and I can see here instance details. Okay, instance details means Azure Data Factory name. I have to specify the Azure Data Factory name here. Okay, so if I want to create Azure Data Factory name, test Azure Data Factory 014. Okay, so I can see here, if you face any difficulties, guys, okay, you can specify in a small case only. While creating this name of data factory, if you face any difficult, for example, this name is already present, right? This particular name is already present, then you can change the name of data factory. You can specify any name. Okay, you can specify any name of your data factory, but it should be some meaningful name. Okay, it should be some meaningful name. In real time, they'll create this, maybe an use maybe your client name, right? So your client name hyphen data factory name, they can generally specify. Okay, so for a dev, they can have a separate, maybe they can specify dev hyphen Azure Data Factory. So they'll specify some data factory names, guys. Okay, so they can because you have to specify some naming conventions to understand the things in a better way, right? So if you're not following the naming conventions, no one can understand, right? So you need to follow some naming standards here, guys, while creating this resources in portal, so that everyone can understand. even if I want to create any components, right? So in a data factory, as you already knows that linked services and data sets or pipelines or anything, I have to follow some naming standards, guys. Okay, so I'll explain what naming standards you have to follow while creating the components in Azure Data Factory. Okay, remember this. So I want to keep every resource in a same region, guys. Okay, so what region have? Region generally contains the all the metadata information of data factory, guys. Okay, so you have to specify where you want to resides your data factory. You want to resides in the same region. Generally we will keep all set of services, okay, all set of resources under the same region, guys. Okay, because all the metadata information, when you try to access maybe in a SQL DB or storage account, you can, it's easy for you if you if it is in the same region. If it is in a different region, it's a bit taking time. There is some bandwidth issues, right? So you'll also get data from other region, but it will take bit some latency issues, right? It will take some time. That is the reason we'll always need to recommend keep every resource in the same region. Okay, so East US, I want to keep everything in East US. And version, okay, version 1 already deprecated, guys. Version 2 we have, okay, so version 1 is already deleted or discarded or deprecated, and we only have version 2. And Microsoft is currently focusing on their lot of new features in a pipeline, guys. So you'll expect many features in coming years, okay, because every week there are the new updates, because Microsoft is focusing on Azure Data Factory nowadays, guys. Okay, there are a lot of new features, and that is the reason I am saying, guys, many ETL services you cannot uh, think even, okay, because there are plenty of jobs are created in on-premises. Everything is moving to Azure Data Factory only. And one of the biggest future, Apache Airflow, guys. Airflow is also integrated in Azure Data Factory now, and it's still in a preview stage, but in coming months or you can expect a GA, general availability, this particular feature, and you can start expose on that feature as well. Okay, so click on next, the Git configuration. So you can see here, guys, you can start creating the pipelines in Azure Data Factory. That is fine, but you need to integrate your code, right? So how you can merge your changes to the production? You cannot directly merge your changes to the production, right? Before going to production, you have to do lot of validations. You have to do lot of testing, right? So that only you can do in a lower environments. Okay, so if everything is completed successfully in a lower environment, then you can be able to merge your changes to higher branches, right? So for that you can create your own branch, right? So in real time we have different environments. We have a dev, test stage, and production environments, and for each environment you have to test thoroughly before going to production. And for that you need to integrate your code to the higher environments, and you need to create the branches and branching policies and everything. You can create as DevOps or GitHub repositories. So Git is nothing but an version control system, guys. Okay, so nowadays Git is playing as a major role when you try to integrating your code, and when you try to create a repositories, when you want to create any branching policies, when you want to create any kind of a DevOps boards, right, where you want to organize all your stories, right, futures, epics, everything that, like we'll discuss, guys. We have a separate session for Azure DevOps also, guys, and how you need to integrate your code and how you need to create a pipeline. Everything we'll discuss. Okay, so how you need to create a branching policies, how you need to publish your changes, how you need to create a pull request, how you need to moving data from future branch, right? So to master branch, or from master branch to, generally we have an option to publish the changes from master to data factory live mode. We'll see all these things, guys. Okay, so how you need to integrate, how you need to connect to this repositories. So everything you need to understand as a data engineer. So you need to understand, because whenever you want to make the changes, you can create your own branch, because there are multiple developers can work on the same module, right? So you have to take that latest changes from the dev environment and you can start modifying. Meanwhile, if somebody also making the changes, right? So because he is working on your project, right?
So you have some conflict issues if he's also updating same file, and he already made the changes and he deployed the change, right? He deployed the change, but you don't have those changes. You have to take the latest changes always when you try to merge something, guys, otherwise you'll have some conflict issues we'll also experience going forward. Okay, so I'll configure git later point of time. So click on next, networking. So so we have two options here, guys. Okay, so we have managed virtual network, we have self-hosted integration runtime. Okay, so managed virtual network, guys, if I want to connect to my source system, okay, securely, choose whether you want to the default auto resolve integration runtime to be provisioned on demand inside an IDF. So by default, when you try to create this Azure Data Factory service, guys, so it will, by default, we automatically it will create an auto resolve integration runtime, guys. Okay, so it will automatically provision. And if you want to create a managed virtual network, so I'll also show you when you should create this managed virtual network. If the setting is disabled after the data factory is created, you can still choose whether to provision explicitly created Azure integration runtime inside an ADF managed virtual network. Okay, so by default you have auto resolve integration runtime if you have managed virtual network. Okay, so we'll discuss that more in detail, guys, how you need to create this managed virtual network, how you need to create this private endpoint connection to securely connecting to your storage, right? We'll practically can see why we need to create this managed virtual network and what is this managed virtual network and how Microsoft can manage that traffic and how you can generate the private IP address instead of public endpoint. And we'll also discuss this going forward. Okay, it's a bit advanced, guys, you cannot understand if I can explain at a high level. These are all secure way of connecting to our source systems. And self-hosted integration runtime, you already aware if you want to connect to your on-premises network, on-premises systems, right? Or if there is any virtual network, if even if you want to move data from cloud to cloud also, you can use self-hosted integration runtime. Okay, so again we have few options, guys. Okay, where you need to understand if your source is self-hosted, target should also be self-hosted even if it is hosted on the cloud. Okay, so those kinds of options we can see, guys, going forward, because these are all very very important in real time. Okay, you can experience. That is the reason I can show you practically when we start this self-hosted integration runtime topic. Okay, so you have to choose whether you want to use a private endpoint or public endpoint. Public endpoint in the sense we have the some public endpoint. Okay, so public IP address everyone can access. If your data factory hosted in a public endpoint, or if you want to create a private endpoint also, it will generate a private IP address or private link. Okay, if you want to create that, generally we'll create the manager virtual network. And we can create instead of you to create your own virtual network, we can also create a managed virtual network. With respect to managed virtual network, what will happen, it is in a Microsoft network, it is the traffic and everything is managed by Microsoft only. And you can also create a private IP address instead of using the public endpoint, so that to securely connecting our source system. How you need to create this private endpoint and where to check this private IP address and everything we can check going forward. Okay, so we'll discuss more in detail, guys, about this managed virtual network and self-hosted integration runtime. Okay, so at a very high level, what you need to understand here, managed network virtual network is one of the option where you need to create a virtual network and keep this resource in a virtual network to securely connecting. Okay, it's a fully managed by Microsoft. It's their network, Microsoft network. Okay, so self-hosted integration runtime is one of the option, guys, where you need to connect your on-premises private network, or if you want to move data from private network, or if you want to move data from any virtual network, also you can use this self-hosted integration runtime. Okay. Click on next, advanced. So the data would be an encrypted format, guys. That's the I mean, while explaining in the previous session, guys, security is the main thing, right? When you want to create any service, when you want to handle the data, security is the main concern for us, right? Because they have lot of personal information, PII information, personal identifiable information, right? Like your credit card, your name, your email address, your phone number, right? So everything is secure, right? So by default, data is encrypted with Microsoft Manager keys. Okay, by default, their data is encrypted with Microsoft managed keys while data is in a rest mode or while data is in a transit mode, guys. Okay, so if you are not agree with the Microsoft managed keys, if you are not believing the Microsoft managed keys, you can also create your own customized keys. Okay, if you can also create that customer managed keys, and where you can keep this key in a key vault. If you want, you can securely connecting to um, you can specify that key vault, customer manager key here, and you can specify that customer manager key in a key vault, and you can securely connecting. Okay, and this is one of an option we have, guys, where you can use customer manager keys. So you can enable this option, and then you have to specify the key vault URL and user assigned identity encryption. So you can create this if you want. Okay, so I don't want to use this option. So generally we cannot create. If you want, you can create it. If your data is very secure, then we can use this option. So tax generally Microsoft, this is an option, guys, where you can use for multiple services in same subscription, the same name, because Microsoft, they'll charge based on the subscription and tax level. Okay, so you can specify, see here, tax name or value page that enables you to categorize the resources and view consolidated billing by applying the same tag to multiple resources and resource groups. Okay, so you can apply the same tag to multiple resources and resource groups, so that they will charge based on, instead of individual resource, they'll charge on top of all set of services under the subscription and the tag you have specified for each resource. Okay, and you can specify name here, tag name and tag value. Okay, and if you want, so next to create it. Okay, review, and it's going to be validate. Now validation is passed, and I'll create this data factory. So it will take a while to create this data factory. So it's created. Okay, I can see here your deployment is completed. If you want to see the deployment details, okay, I can also see. And so I can go to resource now. Okay, so I can go to resource, I can click on this go to resource, and this is a data factory, guys. Okay, this is a data factory, and these are all essential details related to an Azure data factory. So you already aware, this is a resource group name you have entered, and the status is succeed, and where the location while creating the data factory, and it's an east us, and this is the subscription details, and this is a subscription ID it is going to be generate, guys. And this is a data factory version 2, and this is a documentation where you can check. Okay, so where you can check, if you want to see the quick start related to this data factory, you can also start reading the document if you want. So this is an option where you need to launch the data factory. Okay, so if you want to open and create a pipelines, this is an option, guys. Okay, launch studio, and these are all some tutorials. Okay, some tutorials, quick starts tutorials, template gallery, and training modules, right? So these are all some of the options where you need to learn something from Microsoft document. I'll also show you guys Microsoft document while explaining, because you'll also habituate with reading the document, and because when you see the document you can get more details, right? So that is the reason I'll also go through the document and I'll explain you. Okay, so these are all the options, monitoring section, right? So you cannot see anything, everything is zero only. But once you start creating the pipelines, once you start creating an activities inside a pipeline, you can experience this dashboards, and it will also populate here. Okay, trigger runs, integration runtime CPU, right? Now integration runtime memory, everything you can see here. Okay, so but as of now we don't have any pipelines, we don't have any activities, we don't have any trigger runs, integration runtime, and integration runtimes memory and everything, right? So we don't have anything. So that's the reason you cannot see anything here, everything is zero. But once you start creating the pipelines and use and activities in your pipeline, you can experience that I'll show you going forward. And we have an activity log. So activity log, so where you can keep see all this information. For example, if somebody deleted the pipeline, you don't know who deleted the pipeline, you can simply come to activity log, and you can see by default last 6 hours when he was deleted. Maybe last 24 hours you want to check, last week you want to check, last 2 weeks you want to check, last month you want to check. Custom, by clicking on custom you can see last 45 days log data. Okay, last 45 days log data, and you can also see who is initiated, event initiated by, who deleted that pipeline, everything you can see. If you are not able to identify here, you can also export, download as a CSV. Okay, you can see all the log data, and you can also maybe search who deleted that pipeline. You can search with that pipeline name, right? So these things can happen in real time. Somebody deleted by mistake and you want to see who deleted the pipelines, right? So because many team members are working in a project, right? So you want to see who deleted the pipeline, you can go to the activity log, you can see last 45 days logs. By default it is last 6 hours, guys. And you can see subscription name, management group. I don't have any management group, but real time you can see something, right? So resource group, test data factory, this is my resource. Okay, so this is all the information. So access control, right? Access control, this is very very important, guys, in real time. So what level of access they provided you, you want to see at the data factory level, just click on test access. Okay, I mean access control, click on view my access. I can see I have a service administrator and I have a owner permissions, but real time they never ever provide you the service administrator or the owner privileges. They can only provide you an access to contributor access. So how you need to add that role assignment, since I am the administrator, right? Add role assignment. I can see here these are all the roles. Okay, I have owner access, I have reader access, contributor access. Owner grant full access to manage the all the resources, including the ability to assign the roles in Azure, right? So in RBAC, Azure RBAC, Azure rollback access control. RBAC means, okay, we'll discuss that. Contributor access, you should have the contributor access. You can see grants full access to manage all the resources, but does not allow you to assign the roles. Okay, anyhow, you cannot assign the roles to anyone in Azure RBAC. Manage assignments in Azure blueprints or shared image galleries. So everything you can access it from Azure Data Factory. We'll experience that. Okay, reader access, just need to view all the resources but does not allow you to make any changes. Okay, so we'll see all this information, guys, tomorrow session. So I'll discuss about this remaining options, networking, right? Some managed identities. What is this managed identity? System assigned, user assigned managed identity. How securely you can connect from data factory to that respective resource. Okay, so because you have to specify some source and target details here, right? So we'll discuss that. Okay, how exactly you need to move data from source to target simply using Azure Data Factory, we can see in tomorrow's session. Okay, so we'll also discuss more details on this data factory in tomorrow's session only, guys. Okay, because we need continuation for this from now onwards. So that's the reason we'll continue from tomorrow onwards. Okay, so that's it, guys, for today. We can connect again tomorrow. If you have any questions, please ask me. Hello, hello. No questions.
Yes, Suresh.
Everything, I
Yes,
mean,
good.
understanding, guys. Everyone with me,
Yes.
Yes, yes.
everyone following. Okay, so if you have any
Yes.
questions, guys, even after while practicing, right? So because in the first maybe in 3 or 4 sessions, right, it's bit difficult to understand the terminology. But once you start practicing, every technology is old. But when you start something, right, it's a new for you. But when you start practicing, it's old for you. Okay, so practice makes man perfect. So that's the reason, guys. So every day we can practice something, we'll try to understand, we'll learn something, that way we can grow. Okay, so when you start understanding, maybe when you go through this recorded, maybe later point of time, right, when you experience anything, right, you can also share with me, you can connect with me and you can share with me. If you have any questions also, you can talk with me. Okay, that's it, guys, for today. We can connect again tomorrow.
Can you share that
Thank you.
brief
Sorry, guys, can you repeat?
document? Yeah, Word document.
Yeah, I'll upload this session, guys. I'll provide an access today. Okay.
Sure. Thank
Yeah, I have provided access most of them, most of I think in our team. So I think few members have not provided an access because of some limitation I have yesterday. So I'll provide an access maybe next 1 hour, guys. Okay.
Thank you all. Have a great day, guys.